السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا بكم جميعا في فيديو جديد على قناتي. في هذا الفيديو أردت أن أشارك معكم تجربتي في تقديم مداخلة علمية ضمن ملتقى وطني. يتمحور هذا الملتقى الوطني المنظم من طرف كلية العلوم الاقتصادية والتجارية وعلوم التسيير بجامعة فرحة عباس طيف واحد حول موضوع تسويق المنتجات البيئية الوطنية لترقية الصادرات خارج قطاع المحروقات، وذلك في إطار الاهتمام المتزايد بقضايا التنويع الاقتصادي وتعزيز الصادرات الجزائرية غير النفطية. جاءت مداخلتنا ضمن المحور الثالث الموسوم بتحديات تصدير المنتجات البيئية الوطنية، حيث تناولنا من خلال دراسة نوعية بعنوان تحديات تصدير المنتجات البيئية في الجزائر، دراسة نوعية حول العوائق اللوجستية وفرص التطوير. تناولنا أهم العراقيل اللوجستية التي تواجه تصدير المنتجات البيئية الجزائرية، إضافة إلى الفرص التنموية التي يمكن استغلالها لدعم هذا النوع من الصادرات والمساهمة في تعزيز مكانة الجزائر في الأسواق الدولية. تم تقديم هذا المداخلة التي قمت بإعدادها بالتعاون مع زميلتي يوم 1 ديسمبر 2025 في عرض مدته 10 دقائق. أتمنى أن يكون هذا الفيديو مفيدا لكم وأن يساعدكم في التحضير لأي عمل علمي مستقبلا. أتمنى لكم كل التوفيق والنجاح في مساركم العلمي والبحثي، وأترككم الآن مع تفاصيل هذا العرض العلمي، متمنية لكم مشاهدة مفيدة وممتعة. لحظة فقط. العرض واضح؟ شكرا جزيلا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Good morning everyone. First of all, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the organizers of this national seminar for giving us this opportunity to share our work. Now let me introduce the title of our presentation, which is Export Challenges of Ecological Products in Algeria, a qualitative study on logistical barriers and development opportunities. To set the stage for our discussion, let me start by giving you a brief overview of the context. So, in recent years, global demand for ecological products has increased considerably. Algeria, with its rich natural and agricultural resources, has strong potential to position itself in this growing market. However, the country's ecological product exports remain limited and inconsistent. Producers face multiple challenges, particularly logistical constraints, operational inefficiencies, and institutional barriers that affect their ability to meet international standards and compete in global markets. These limitations raise critical questions about the competitiveness of Algerian ecological products and the reforms needed to support sustainable export development. With these challenges in mind, our research aims to explore a key question: to what extent do logistical, operational, and institutional barriers hinder the export potential of Algerian ecological products, and what opportunities can be leveraged to strengthen their competitiveness in global markets? Having outlined the key question driving our research, let me now walk you through the specific objectives that we aim to achieve. These objectives will help us understand not only the current landscape of ecological products in Algeria, but also the barriers and opportunities ahead of us. So the first objective is to examine the current state of ecological products in Algeria and assess the readiness of local producers for export activities. The second is to identify and analyze the key logistical and operational barriers affecting the export of ecological products from Algeria. The third, to explore institutional, regulatory, and administrative constraints that limit the competitiveness of Algerian ecological products in international markets. And the last objective is to evaluate the challenges related to international standards, certification, and the quality requirements for ecological exports. The plan, I will firstly introduce the key concepts we will be working with, and then I will dive into the research methodology, and finally I will walk you through our data analysis. So let's start by defining a couple of key concepts that will guide our discussion. I will begin with ecological products. It's also referred to an environmentally friendly or eco-friendly green products, are products that have a low negative impact on the environment throughout their life cycle. An ecological supply chain is a supply chain that prioritizes environmental sustainability by integrating green practices such as waste reduction, emissions control, and so on throughout all supply chain stages, thereby improving ecological performance and strengthening resilience. And in order to delve deeply into perceptions and experiences, we adopted a qualitative methodology. This allowed us to explore the thematic focus of our study in a nuanced way by conducting interviews along 4 main axes. The first axis was current state of ecological products in Algeria. The second, export readiness and general challenges. And the third axis, logistical and operational barriers. And the last one is policies and some recommendations. So as a tool, we used to analyze our data the NVivo software. This is a popular qualitative analysis software that really helps manage and analyze textual data. So in our case, we relied on NVivo to apply several analytical approaches, lexical, linguistic, and cognitive maps, and finally the thematic approach. The first result, which is word cloud. So you can see this word cloud that represents the results of our lexical analysis. The larger words like ecological products, export, and international appear in bigger font sizes because they were the most frequently mentioned terms in our data. This visual helps us quickly identify the dominant themes that emerge from the text. The second approach, which is the linguistic approach, goes beyond just identifying words. It examines how those words are linked together in the expert's language. In other words, we are looking at things like conjunctions, verbs. So using NVivo, we were able to identify correlations between how different interviewees express their ideas. Like, for example, you can notice here that expert 3 and 1 are correlated by 94%, which means they are closely and their views align in terms of language patterns. The third result, which is cognitive maps, generated around the keyword logistics. It helps us visualize our participants link different ideas in their answers. So NVivo extracts all related concepts and arrange them from left to right, which allow us to quickly identify the main issues mentioned by respondents. This map, we can say, gives us a concise overview of the key concerns expressed by the experts regarding logistical challenges. And the last approach, which is the thematic approach, is the core of our analysis. In this method, the data must first be coded into a matrix in order to identify and compare themes across experts. So NVivo allows us to organize each interview into categories such as the current state of ecological products, export readiness, and so on. Here you can see an example from the first expert showing how their statements were classified under each theme. This approach helps us extract structured and comparable insights and build a coherent interpretation of the data. Here you can notice the key logistical constraints identified by the experts we interviewed. The findings highlight several recurring issues, including weaknesses in the cold chain and system, and high transport costs, limited storage infrastructure, irregular maritime lines, customs delay, and the absence of dedicated export zones. So together, these barriers significantly limit the export capacity of ecological products in Algeria, and they reduce the competitiveness of local producers in international markets. So to conclude, our study shows that Algeria has strong potential in ecological products thanks to its natural resources and product authenticity. However, this potential is limited by major structural weaknesses. Like all experts highlighted logistics and certification as the most critical barriers, particularly the lack of cold chain system, high transport costs, as I mentioned in the last slide. While government programs exist, their impact remains limited by bureaucracy and weak coordination. Still, there are real opportunities like improving certification systems, modernizing logistics, reinforcing Algeria's ecological identity, and increasing participation in international fairs. If these areas are addressed in a coherent and strategic way, Algeria could significantly strengthen its position in global ecological markets. Given the challenges identified across our 4 thematic axes, it's important to outline practical recommendations that could address these constraints. Let me now present the key actions suggested by our analysis. The first one is strengthen and expand cold chain infrastructure across production regions to ensure ecological products maintain their quality throughout the export journey. The second recommendation is modernize storage facilities near major ports and airports to support sensitive ecological goods and reduce quality loss before shipments. Simplify and streamline customs procedures to reduce delays and negatively affects the competitiveness of ecological exports. Accelerate the digitalization of export process, including documentation, customs clearance, and certification requests to improve efficiency. Develop a strong national ecological branding strategy to promote the identity, authenticity, and the natural qualities of Algerian ecological products abroad, and increase the presence of Algerian ecological producers in international fairs and trade exhibitions to improve visibility. So this brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.